This is an interactive workshop, as you may have noticed. If you haven't done one of these before, I will ask you questions and you guys will answer the questions instead of you asking me the questions. So I'll come up with the most common arguments that non-vegans throw at us, and then you can help me with the responses. And if I want to add anything to it, I'll do that, and then we will move on to the next question. And I can see that we do have a lot of non-vegans on our Instagram, so we might be able to use some of their arguments for this workshop. Because I saw someone asking this, so let's just use that argument. It wasn't a question, it was more like a statement. It said milk is not exploitation, and then they said, why do I need to stop drinking milk? So how do you respond to that when someone says, but dairy is not exploitation, or milk doesn't kill animals, why do I need to stop drinking milk or eating dairy products? How do you handle that? Yeah, so basically for this question, if someone says, what's wrong with milk, what's wrong with dairy, why do I have to stop consuming dairy, then you obviously need to explain to them. I think the best way is always to ask the question, do you know what happens in the dairy industry? By asking the question instead of just lecturing them, you are actually giving them the option to choose if they want to engage or not. So when you ask someone a question, you're actually getting a commitment from that person. When I say, do you know about the dairy industry? And they say, no, I don't know, tell me. That person is going to be committed to that conversation. They're going to be more engaged. But if they say, what's wrong with milk? And I start talking for 5 minutes, they might not be as engaged. So I always recommend starting your conversation with a question. And so when they say, no, I don't know about the dairy industry, then you can start telling them everything that you guys said basically. So in the dairy industry, the cows are actually raped. What that means is that they basically masturbate the bull, take the semen, they shove it in the female cow's vagina, they put their arm in the anus of the female cow. They do usually wear a glove, but it doesn't matter. They shove it in so that they can position the uterus. So they put their one arm in the anus. They position the uterus in a way that they can guarantee that that cow is going to be pregnant. So they shove the syringe that's got the semen in it in the vagina. Again, that's rape. So the first part was rape because you're masturbating someone without their consent. And then the second part is rape because you're shoving the semen and your arm into someone's body. And that's how the cows are usually impregnated in the dairy industry. And what happens is after some time, when they are carrying this baby in their body, they give birth just like humans, and they take the baby away from their mom immediately, almost immediately. If that baby was a girl, so if it was a female cow, they will have the same life as their mom. So they would continue getting raped, they would continue to just be used for their milk until they can't do that anymore, and then they will get killed. And if the baby was a boy, and if it was a male cow or calf, then they usually send them to be slaughtered only a few weeks or a month after they are born. And during that time, they separate them from their mom, so they can't actually drink the mother's milk because they do want to sell that milk to humans and they want to make money of it. So they don't allow the baby calf to come near the mother to drink the milk. And there's so much footage from this where you can see when they separate the baby from their mom, the mother cow is crying, trying to go after the baby, and it's just really painful to watch. And for anyone who has experienced having a child, I'm sure you can imagine how painful that would be, even for people that haven't, like myself. I haven't had children, but I can only imagine if I was carrying a baby in my stomach for 9 months and that baby was ripped away from me, the pain that I would feel and the anger would just kill me. So imagine that for the 3-4 years that cow is alive, that is constantly their function. So they continue to get raped, they continue to give birth, they continue to have their babies ripped away from them. And then when they can't do it anymore because they get sick, they get too old, then they get sent to a slaughterhouse. Usually cows live up to 20 years roughly, naturally. But in the dairy industry, they get killed within 3 to 4 years, and that's it. So that's basically the dairy industry for anyone who thinks that drinking milk or having dairy products is okay and it's ethical and nobody is exploited for it. I did see an argument about religion, so let's respond to that because it will help the person who's asking these questions. What do you say to someone who says, but it says in Quran or Bible that I can kill animals and I can eat them? If God said it's okay, what's your problem? That's their purpose, basically. God put animals on this earth so we can use them and eat them. So you're going against God's words, basically. How do you respond to that? When you're faced with this question, my suggestion to you is that you don't get too deep into that particular religion. I can see that some of you have done some research and they know what they're talking about in terms of, like, they've read the Bible and they've done their research. My suggestion is actually not to get into that, because while you might have a lot of information on a certain religion, you may not have the same amount of information on another religion. So you might have read the Bible and you might have researched it, but you may not know as much about Quran or Islam or other religions, right? So I actually don't think that we all need to know all of this information. I think it's very simple. It's very easy and simple to respond to this, regardless of what religion you're talking about. So regardless of whether that person brings up just God or they bring up a particular religion or a book, what you can say is, in no religion says that you have to torture, kill, and eat animals to be a good Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, whatever it might be. So that is the main point. That's the first point you need to make, which is the most important point. In no religion, like you said, it didn't mandate or it didn't make a must. The other thing is, all of these religions, they have been created to maintain peace, right? Compassion, peace, that's all they talk about. They talk about peace, compassion, justice. They teach you what's right and what's wrong. Jesus, Prophet Muhammad, all of these people were there to guide people and to tell them, basically to do the right thing. So if God is all about that, if God is about peace and justice, why would that kind of God want you to torture and abuse innocent beings that are sentient, just like us? If God's purpose was to create these animals for us to eat them and use them and kill them, why would God create such sentient beings that can experience life just like we do? So they feel pain, they get scared, all of that. Wouldn't it make more sense if they were just numb to all emotions and they didn't feel anything? That doesn't make any sense. Some of you did say that sounds like, that's an evil thing to do. God wouldn't do that. Another point you can make is, don't you think God would have been a lot more impressed with you as a Christian, as a Muslim, if you didn't kill, if you didn't harm unnecessarily, if you didn't cause unnecessary harm and suffering to individuals, to innocent beings, when you don't need to? You're living in a day an age that you have supermarkets, you have money, you can go and do your shopping, you can eat plants, you can buy all these vegan products. You don't actually, you're not in a survival situation where you have to kill literally just to survive. So don't you think that God would be a lot more impressed with you if you left these innocent animals alone? And another point that you can make is obviously the one that I really like, which is, do you think that slaughterhouses would exist in heaven? Obviously, that's just a question. That person is just gonna think about it. Their response is very easy and obvious. Nobody thinks that they're going to be walking around in heaven, which is supposed to be this beautiful, magical place that we all go to if we're good people. And then while you're enjoying the nature and you're hearing the birds chirping and the water running and fresh fruit and flower, and then there's a slaughterhouse and animals are being killed and I can hear their screams and there's blood everywhere. That just doesn't match the image of heaven that we all have. So that could be just the last point that you make, just to leave them with a question. But like I said, there are many points that you can say, you can use to respond to this question, and you can use as many as you like if you have the time and if that person's engaged in the conversation. But again, I do recommend that you don't get too caught up in that particular religion, even if you do feel like you know enough about it. I was raised in Iran, so that's an Islamic country. I had to read Quran and I had to know about the religion to some extent. And I do know a lot about it. But I never choose to go there because I don't know enough about the religions, and if I'm talking to someone from another religion, I don't want to then get stuck. So I don't think that I need to rely on my knowledge, because again, that's giving into that whole excuse that they're coming up with. So you just stick to the point, and the points are very simple. When we're doing outreach, it's just very black and white, simple facts, and you don't need to get too deep into it. You don't need to really, to be a good outreacher, you don't need to do all of this research on religion or the science or the diet aspect or nutrition and all of these things, environmental facts. You don't need to spend all of this time researching these facts to be able to be a good outreacher. You just need to be someone that holds people accountable. You just know the simple responses and you make people think. That's all you need to do. So same with any other argument. For this argument, you just stick to those points that I just mentioned and don't feel like you have to, even if you're talking to a Christian and you are a Christian and you have read the Bible and you know about it and you can debunk every point, don't feel like you have to, and that makes it a better response necessarily. That's just not how it works. All right, I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you so much for joining me for this workshop. And I will see you on the next live stream, which is happening in a few days. Thanks everyone, much love, and take care.